Dino 101. This is our bingo board for the day. Remember, if and when you get 5 across any direction, diagonal, vertical, horizontal, a direction that is not even made up yet, send a message to Christina or Grace. That means you get to win a special prize, which we will announce at the moment of winning. All right. Grace, Christina, everyone.
Hello.
Christina specifically, how are you feeling on Easter Monday? Easter Monday? Easter Sunday?
Easter Sunday.
It's Easter Sunday.
I'm feeling pretty good. I got a hot cup of wet bean water.
Hot cup of wet bean water. What are we going to talk about today?
It's Easter Sunday. We're going to talk about eggies.
I just really had the inclination to just smash these on my head, but that's a bad idea, especially right now. Right, we're going to talk about eggs because, as you probably know, if you have omelets in the morning, those are coming from dinosaurs. We're going to talk all about dinosaur eggs, mostly extinct dinosaur eggs. But per usual, we have to start our day with our dino of the day. Here it is. Can you guys see that? My screen sharing nice and pretty?
Yeah.
Cool. This is Heyuania. Say that 5 times fast. Heyuania.
Heyuania.
Heyuania. This is our dino of the day, Heyuania. This is another image of what it may, is this really not going to let me click down? There we go. It's another image of what it may have looked like. This is for size. They had me at Wikipedia dressed all red that day. I don't know why. It was weird. But, you know, you do what your boss tells you as a red body model. Heyuania, that's how it's spelled, not so big. This is it. I'm excited to see your drawings of Heyuania. We also, ladies and gentlemen, today, there we go. We have a very special guest. Has she messaged you guys? Do we know if it's the?
Yes,
Jasmina?
it is the Jasmina. You need to give her co-host.
I'm doing it right now. Boom.
Abilities.
She is now co-hosting.
Yeah.
Does she have an image? Jasmina, if you are here, can you say hi? There you are. Hi, Jasmina. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, microphone works. Awesome. Yeah, hey guys.
Hi.
Great to be here to talk to you about dinosaur eggs on Easter Sunday. It's amazing.
So, Jasmina, we're going to get into what you do and your research and all that. And can you give us just a quick, who you are, what you study, where you are, that type of thing?
Okay, I'm a PhD candidate at Yale University, and I'm a molecular paleobiologist. So I'm specialized in looking at fossil biomolecules to learn something about dinosaurs. And I focus on dinosaur eggs and dinosaur egg color, and I'm excited to hear more about that today and tell you more about that later.
Heck yeah. Thank you. So basically, we have someone who hardcore fact check me all day today. We're going to come back to Jasmina in a little bit. She's going to tell us about her research and how we even figure out that some dinosaurs that haven't been around for literally 66 million years, we know what we're pretty sure what color some of their eggs were, which is pretty amazing. But first, per usual, we have to play our game, Dino or Not a Dino. So Natty, I'm actually going to throw it to Natty. Let me find Natty, because I know you won a couple days ago. Natty, I'm going to unmute you so you can tell us who is going to play Dino or Not a Dino today.
Okay, so I have decided Margot.
Margot. Okay, excellent choice. Margot, let's find Margot. I'm going to find you somewhere. Your name starts with an M, apparently, according to how letters work. All right, Margot, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
How come I can't see you? There you are, Margot. Margot, are you excited? Are you nervous? How are you feeling?
I am stoked.
You're stoked. Okay. Margot, I love your glasses. I love your overalls.
Thank you.
I'm excited to play Dino or Not a Dino. Here's how it works for those of you who have not played or just watching at home for the first time. I'm going to read a list of 10 different names of animals, some of which are actual real dinosaurs. Some are names that we have totally made up. And by we, I mostly mean Christina. So
that's why I'm going to hide my face. If I make a face, I'm not giving you a hint.
The whole time, last time, you were just you had a whole book, just I can't let people see. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Margot, there are 10 names. All I need from you is to know if it's a dino or not a dino. Feel free to get clues, phoning a friend from the rest of a group in Zoom. Thumbs up, thumbs down, guys. Jasmina, you may know many of these, so maybe just look at her box for a yes or a no.
Okay.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Yes.
I need a pen. This is going to be an excellent round. Okay, here we go. Number one. Nemegtomia. Nemegtomia. Again, I can spell these if you would like.
I'm going to say
Nemegtomia. Wow, I can't even say it. Nemegtomia.
dino.
Dino? You are correct. Nemegtomia. I can't even say that one. Nemegtomia is a dino. It's actually a type of oviraptor, which we may hit on a little bit later. Number two, Monolophosaurus. Monolophosaurus. I'm getting a thumbs up from Natty.
Yeah, I'm going to say dino.
You're going to say dino for Monolophosaurus, and you are correct. You've heard of Dilophosaurus with the two frills. Monolophosaurus is similar. It's got one frill down the middle. It's a theropod, medium size. You are 2 for 2, crushing it. These are going to get a little bit difficult. Here we go. Number 3, Zebedontis. Zebedontis.
Not a dino?
Ooh, Natty says, is that your final answer? Zebedontis.
I'll change it to dino.
You're going dino?
Yeah,
I'm
going
sorry. Zebedontis is not a dino. You should have went with your intuition at the front. That's okay. 2 for 3. Number 4. Elysionyx. Elysionyx.
Not a dino?
That is correct. Elysionyx is not a dino. You're crushing it. 3 out of 4 thus far. Number 5, Guanlong. Guanlong.
Yes.
Jasmina, don't make any faces. Keep your poker face.
That's dino.
Yes, Guanlong is a dino. It's a type of tyrannosaur. Cool. Wow, you've gotten 4 right, 1 wrong. Doing great. This one is hard to pronounce, so let me make sure I get this right.
Try your best.
Bartholomeumia. Bartholomeumia.
No.
No, Bartholomeumia is not a dinosaur. Wow. All right. Many of you may have started to notice a theme in our not dinosaurs. We'll go from there. Next, Massospondylus. Massospondylus.
Dino?
That is a dino. In fact, that is the dino from which we have the oldest known dinosaur eggs from about 190 million years ago. Massospondylus. Wow. 6 and 1, crushing it. Apostolsuchus.
No.
Apostolsuchus.
Not a dino.
That is also not a dino. Maybe I should have made these a little bit harder, Christina. All right, you've gotten 7 right, 1 incorrect. Moving on, Banji.
Not a dino?
Banji is a dino. Banji is another type of oviraptorid. All right, that's okay. You're still crushing it. I think that was, let's see, you've gotten 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9. You've gotten 7 right, 2 wrong. Let's really bring it home. Jesusaurus. I can spell this. Would you like me to spell this? I'm going to spell it just for those at home who maybe the audience. It's Jesusaurus is spelled J-E-S-U-S A-U-R-U-S. Jesusaurus.
Not a dino.
No, Jesusaurus, alternate pronunciation, is not a dinosaur. Margot, you've won. Dino or not a dino? Very well done. You got 8 out of 10, which is amongst the best scores we've ever had. Margot, do you remember what you've won?
Yes.
Tell the group.
To choose the next player for
You get
dino.
to choose tomorrow's participant of Dino or not a Dino. You crushed the game. Thank you, Christina, for taking the time with me to go through all the apostles and other biblical names and try to turn them into fake dino names. That was very fun.
Anytime.
All right. Christina, how do you feel about that round that you wrote, basically?
I feel really proud of your pronunciation.
Okay.
Yeah, on paper, I was like, this is very obvious. But the way you said it, I was like, is that a dino?
Well, we left out a couple that I thought were good. They just didn't make the cut, like Mary Magdalena. That one didn't make it.
Proud of that
There's
one.
a couple others. What other ones did you have?
I liked Jonix.
Jonix. That one works too. Maybe we'll do a whole nother biblical one day. All right, cool. You guys, we did it.
Yeah.
We did Dino or not a Dino. Margot, you get to choose who plays next time. Let's get into it. We're talking about eggs today. Dinosaurs, as we know, well, birds, as we know, are dinosaurs. We know birds lay eggs. Other reptiles lay eggs. So it stands to reason, it stood to reason even before we found a bunch of dinosaur eggs, that dinosaurs did lay eggs. We now know that they did across multiple, if not, well, all genera. And we're going to talk about kind of the differences between different types of dinosaurs and different types of dino eggs. But first of all, like, what is an egg in the first place? I have a screen. How do we share this? Here we go. Christina, again, reminder, just interrupt me with any questions people might have. Look at all our beautiful eggs here.
Of course.
So these are a bunch of eggs from animals, from birds, from dinosaurs that are extant, that are alive today. Beautiful colors, beautiful speckles. This is a model of a fossilized dinosaur egg with maybe what we think the dinosaur on the side might have looked like. So not quite looking like this when we find it. And we'll come back to it. Like, how do we know if these things had any color or pigmentation at all? We'll get to that in a little bit. But first of all, I just want to mention eggs in general, because like I didn't really know until recently the anatomy of an egg. So I got a couple eggs here. Just quick sidebar. Do you guys know how to tell if you have 2 eggs and maybe you've hard-boiled one? Do you know how to tell if it's hard-boiled or not? Christina, do you know? How would I know which one of these? One of these is hard-boiled and one is not hard-boiled.
Throw them on the ground.
So just break them over your head. Is there maybe a safer way without breaking them to figure it out?
Keisha says maybe they float. Denise
Floating
says spin it.
is one. What?
Denise says spin it. Michael is making a spinning motion.
I've always heard spinning.
So is Bella and Emmett.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to angle this down. Hopefully you can see. If your egg spins uniformly, pretty smoothly, this guy's been hard boiled. Versus this one, which has not been hard boiled. It kind of oblong. It doesn't spin in a like a uniform kind of central normal way. So that's one way to tell. Also, Christina, we can just bring them over our heads.
Yeah,
I've not
just
heard the
break it
floating. So with floating, the hard boiled floats or sinks, which do you guys know?
I don't think I've ever hard boiled an egg. Tell me in the chat, how does this work?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Bad eggs float.
Bad eggs float. Oh, interesting.
Says
not
Maria.
exactly hard-boiled or not hard-boiled. That's okay. All right, back to our egg anatomy. The main things I just want to mention is when you look at an egg, I think a lot of people think the yolk is like going to become the chicken or the baby on the inside, but really that is the yolk is the food and the fuel that will feed that little spot that is called a germinal disc. That is where the infant starts to grow from, and it uses the nutrients in the yolk to slowly get bigger and bigger. So the yolk is not like gonna one day become a baby. It's that tiny little spot that you can actually see when you break open and crack open an egg. So next time you open an egg, try to find that little spot that unfortunately did not was not fertilized and did not become a baby dinosaur. So we have lots of different shapes and colors of different eggs, right? Does anyone know what this egg, what living animal this egg is from?
An avocado.
This is an avocadosaurus? No, not quite.
Anna
Oh my
says
God,
emu.
Jasmina has one right there. Do you want to tell us?
T says emu. Anna says emu.
Emu. We got a bunch of emu stands. Yes, absolutely right. That is an emu egg. It has that beautiful, like deep tealish turquoise color. Now, the reason I bring this up is obviously it's beautiful and it's very large. But eggs don't necessarily scale, like their size doesn't necessarily scale with the body size of an animal. Except for maybe with these. I just want to show this because we have an emu here in the middle next to this fancy guy in his suit. And so you can imagine how big that emu egg is next to that emu. And to the left is an elephant bird. And I bring this up because elephant birds have, as far as we know at this point, the largest eggs ever of any animal that's ever lived, as evidenced by this next slide. Remember the size of an emu egg? This is not even the largest elephant bird egg we have ever found. Somewhere between 100 and 150. If you took like chicken eggs, 100 to 150 of those guys make it about this big. So elephant bird eggs are the largest eggs we've ever discovered. So it's not like giant sauropods themselves had the biggest eggs. And we'll come back to that in a little bit. In fact, we'll come back to that right now. It's funny because I just learned this, generally speaking, and Jasmina, correct me if I'm wrong, generally speaking, Theropod eggs were more elongated, much like that emu one you see there, versus we found sauropod and like hadrosaur eggs that are much more round. And the second thing I've learned in that distinction is that there are colors, which we'll get into a little bit. The theropod eggs are often much more colored for camouflage because they were laid on nests that are above ground versus we think many sauropods or hadrosaurs buried their eggs, so they didn't need the coloration, so they were more of like a whiter beige. Yes? Yeah? All right, cool. At this point, I've been fact-checked, and I'm taking it. All right.
Dustin,
you
speaking
guys,
of fact checked,
what?
speaking of fact checked, I had several people tell me in the chat, in the picture that you brought up, can you
Which
bring
one?
that back?
Which
The one with the elephant bird?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the middle, that's an ostrich, not an emu.
Oh, the one with the, okay. You're
Yeah.
right. That is an
So I
ostrich.
just
Thank you.
want you all to know, very good bird identification.
Thank you.
You caught
You're
it.
right. I did that on purpose to try to trick you. You guys caught me. But it's
Man,
a
they're so
similar
smart.
size to an emu. So you can imagine an egg of this size coming out of that one in the middle, and then an egg of this size being laid by that giant elephant bird, which is just terrifying. Now,
Yes.
you guys, we can't, before we get into specifically how we know anything really about extinct dinosaur eggs, well, actually, I want to bring up something we've talked about before because it's one of my favorite dinosaurs and one of my favorite fossils. Again, I'm going to ask you guys, does anyone remember the name of this dinosaur that is on my t-shirt? It is a ceratopsian. It is a relative of Triceratops, much smaller. It might be obvious that it's from Mongolia. Does anyone remember the name?
Richard says, I'll wait for others, and Sophie says, and Michael says, they all agree that it's Protoceratops.
That is Protoceratops.
So does Jada.
And so does, well, if Jada says it's Protoceratops, it's definitely Protoceratops. I bring it up because of this amazing fossil. We've talked about this fossil before. This is a fossil from a dinosaur called Pseudopody. So Pseudopody is a type of oviraptor. And we initially thought this dinosaur, in fact, the name oviraptor means egg thief or egg stealer. Initially, when we found these amazing fossils in Mongolia, I should also mention, this was the first scientifically recognized dinosaur egg to be found. People had found eggs from dinosaurs prior, but we weren't sure what they were, or they assumed, or they classified them as something different. This, back in the 20s, the first scientifically recognized dino eggs, and we thought they were from an oviraptor, an egg thief or an egg stealer, who was trying to prey upon the eggs in this nest when a sand dune probably collapsed, killing it and trapping this moment in time. It wasn't until many, many years later that we realized that the eggs inside those nests were actually not Protoceratops. We thought the oviraptor was trying to eat the Protoceratops eggs. We realized later on that those eggs inside were actually of that same Pseudopody, that same type of oviraptor. So even though its name means egg thief, when really it was a protective mother brooding over her nest at time of death, the name sticks. And again, dinosaurs are scientists' greatest enigma. We're always learning more. There's always more to discover. And we have to use very scant evidence to do it. And speaking of scant evidence to discover and find things, now is the time, Jasmina. I'm curious to know a lot about your research, because in my basic understanding of what you've done, you've been able to figure out the colors of a fair amount of dinosaur eggs, including our dino of the day, Hyuania. Is that correct?
Here we go. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that's correct. So it was actually my very first scientific project ever, working on eggs of Hyuania huangai, which is like the specific name of the kind of dinosaur we were interested in. It's like it's a pretty derived oviraptor. And so,
can I show some pictures of it while you talk about it?
Yeah, I was just about to say, you had beautiful photographs in there. So yeah, it's like beautiful reconstruction. So like Hyuania was like one of the smaller oviraptorids, and like, yeah, people have like proposed a couple of times that oviraptors had like sexual dimorphism, so the females were different from the males. They were rather small, and so the eggs they laid are also rather small. Like the ones that I've been working with, they're like up to like 12 to 14 centimeters in length. So they're like kind of like smaller dinosaur eggs, but they are also ellipsoidal. So kind of like these elongate eggs. They have like a lot of surface ornamentation and surface structure. So like, I don't know, like if you look at like, for example, like an emu egg, I don't know if you can see this here, this like, it has lots of like little like, you know, like bumps on the surface. But for oviraptor eggs, it would be much more extreme. They have something that's called linear tuberculate ornamentation, which is like these kind of like ridges on the surface. And these eggs are like among the most common eggs you can find in the fossil record. Literally like in Mongolia, in China, like we have thousands, like hundreds of thousands of these Hyuania eggs, oviraptor eggs in general. And this is why we started to get interested in exactly the clutch that you're seeing right here on the left. So this is the clutch of dinosaur eggs. Actually, like it's still like in the nesting structure, what I think is particularly exciting because oviraptors build these super weird nests. So we sampled eggs from this clutch and from 2 other eggs that we found in our collections. And we used lasers to kind of like get an idea about what kinds of molecules are preserved in the eggshell itself. And by doing that, we can basically fingerprint all the types of compounds that preserve in the fossils, over like 65, 66 million years of time. And we found traces of these pigments. So like Dustin showed you earlier, like the beautiful photograph with all the colors and patterns that we have in bird eggs. And so like all this diversity that you can see basically here in terms of like, like colors, like going from brown to like bright blue with like spots and speckles. All this is based on only 2 really simple pigments. And they are like chemically very similar, but have quite different chemical properties. So there's like the red pigment, it's called protoporphyrin. There's a blue pigment, it's called biliverdin. And protoporphyrin is very closely related to the compound that makes our blood red in color. So like they're called porphyrin pigments. And these kinds of compounds, they're like super stable and they fossilize surprisingly well. And so when we started doing this work, we had like the very simplistic idea that, like once dinosaurs start to build open nests, which is something like a trait that is acquired along the theropod lineage, there should be like some sort of evolutionary pressure to have egg color, right? Because I mean, once your eggs are like exposed to like the open, to predators, to conspecifics, so to other dinosaurs, to the parents, there is some sort of evolutionary selective factor that should favor egg color to evolve. And so with this very, very simplistic idea, we started to sample, and we figured out that these oviraptors are like the first dinosaurs that build open nests. And so they were, of course, our target to figure out if they had egg color, and if egg color, generally speaking, preceded like, modern birds. And yeah, we find like the blue pigment and the red pigment in these Baryonyx huangai eggshells from 3 different localities. So we were pretty sure that, we're picking up a real signal there and it's not just contamination. What happens occasionally when you try to trace molecules in deep, deep time. But because we got it from 3 different localities, we're pretty sure, they're like real pigments in our dinosaur eggs. And we found them at much lower concentrations. So eventually we started to look at more kinds of dinosaurs, right? Like moving from our dinosaur of the day, Baryonyx, to all kinds of dinosaurs for which we have eggs. And I should mention the egg fossil record is really, really patchy, right? I mean, so we have eggs for most theropods, most derived carnivorous dinosaurs. So basically everything from oviraptors towards birds is sort of covered. We have like fossil eggs for them. But if you think about more basal theropod dinosaurs, or basal sauropod dinosaurs, or sauropodomorph dinosaurs, or basal dinosaurs on the Ornithischian branch, we don't have any eggshells for them. And it's kind of like a conundrum for like a long time, especially when we try to understand, like how these eggshells evolve. And so when we like just go with what we have, so kind of like, derived, let's say like manuraptoran dinosaur eggs, bird eggs, and then we have some like long-necked dinosaur eggs, like sauropod dinosaur eggs, and we have like some ornithischian dinosaur eggs, especially hadrosaur eggs, which are like duck-billed dinosaurs. We started to investigate which of them have pigments and which of them don't, and does that correspond to the nesting modes? And it was quite fascinating to see that like we have like a perfect correspondence for now with the presence of pigments and dinosaurs that build open nests. So if you look at sauropod eggs or duck-billed dinosaur eggs, they were not colored, they were white, like the chicken eggs you can buy in the supermarket, like without any trace of pigment. But once we look at carnivorous dinosaur eggs, generally speaking, oviraptors were probably the most colorful ones, especially when you look at like Baryonyx, like, these were like beautiful eggs, very comparable to emu eggs, and this like beautiful, like dark blue with like little brown speckles on the, not on the pointy end of the egg, but on the blunt end of the egg. There were like lots of speckles. When you look at how the nest is constructed, you see that oviraptors kind of like had the pointy end of the egg sticking in the sediment, kind of like arranged in a circle. And then we have the blunt end, so like the not pointy end of the egg, pointing outward. And this is where the air cell was sitting, which basically allows the embryo to breathe, right? Because you want the embryo to be able to breathe, even if like part of the egg is buried. And yeah, so this is basically where we have the speckles, you know, on the surface. And this is why we came up with the idea egg color had to be for camouflage in these animals. And so when we look at what kinds of egg colors we find in other dinosaurs, other carnivorous dinosaurs, monoraptoran dinosaurs, we have like the whole diversity covered that we see in modern birds. So we've basically spots and speckles in almost all fossil eggs we looked at. We have colors ranging from bright blue, like in a robin egg, to a bright brown, like in a chicken egg or in a tinamou egg. So yeah, it's very fascinating work that eventually tells us that egg color evolved only once, but not in modern birds, in their dinosaur ancestors, and birds just inherited this trait.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So all right, quick sidebar, you guys, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I have a couple questions to get the ball rolling. So I had heard that there's a maximum size egg with respect to, because like eggs, part of the way eggs function, you have to have those tiny pores to let air exchange through, right? And so if an egg gets too big, in order to maintain the structural integrity, the shell would have to get thicker, but then it wouldn't allow air through. So is it true there's like a maximum egg size with respect to that?
So that's actually a really good question. And it's more of an engineering problem, right? Than like really like a biological problem. Because what we see, for example, I showed us with the kiwis, like the elephant birds, they're very closely related to kiwis with these giant eggs, you know, like small birds can lay giant eggs. Generally, there are probably constraints in like how big an egg can get, especially in how big a calcified egg can get, right? Because I mean, if you look, for example, at the elephant bird egg, like that has like a hard, thick calcified shell. And of course, that to a certain extent limits how much oxygen can get through the shell to the embryo that is developing inside the egg. If we think about like other modes of eggshell formation, like for example, like soft eggshells, you can potentially form like even larger eggs, but then it becomes a stability issue, right? Because if you don't have this like thick calcified layer, how are you going to support like, you know, like a big eggshell? So at the moment, we have no idea how big the dinosaur egg could get, no matter if like, you know, calcified or maybe not calcified.
And that, I mean, that's a good segue. Like, I assume there's a lot of eggs that we have found that we're just not sure what dinosaur they belong to. And I literally learned this last night, that it wasn't until 1975 that someone made up an egg classification chart, which was based on the physical characteristics of the eggs rather than the mother, the hypothetical mother from which it came. So it's a whole taxonomy strictly based on like classifying the eggs, not the animal they came from, which that's
totally
awesome.
It's called parataxonomy, and it's a nightmare for paleontologists.
Why is it a nightmare?
No, it is very useful because I mean, most commonly we find these dinosaur eggs or like whole clutches and nests without the parent sitting on it, right? I mean, you showed us the oviraptor sitting on the nest, and it looks as if it's incubating it or guarding it or laying eggs. You know, like people disagree over that a little bit, but I mean, this is like a once in a lifetime find. This was the cover in Nature back in about 1992, 1993, something like that. And like for good reasons, this is like absolutely exceptional. Mostly we find dinosaur eggs without any skeletons associated with it. And then it's like, if you also don't have little embryos developing in the eggs preserved, how are you going to figure out what kind of dinosaur laid these eggs, right? So it's really complicated. And because this is like the common scenario, unfortunately, we had to come up with some way to classify these dinosaur eggs to like, you know, like make use out of this like information that we have, where we simply don't exactly know how to fit it into the grand scheme of dinosaur evolution. And this is why people came up with dinosaur eggshell parataxonomy, which is basically like a classification of eggshells based on their size, their shape, the kind of pores that you have in the eggshell so the embryo can respire.
So people could do that. People could do that today when they, well, not for real, but they can do that today when they find Easter eggs on their Easter egg hunt. They can easily start their own parataxonomy to like classify them in different ways. Cool.
Yeah. So
I'm starting to
you can
get,
also use color as a trait for that. Yeah.
Christina,
I'm starting to get lots of questions.
Yeah.
Do you know if we have other evidence that oviraptors could have preyed on eggs? Michael wants to know.
Jasmina, before you answer that, I just real quick, I want to show everyone the Hyuania one more time. Remember, this is our dino of the day. We're going to come and look at some beautiful drawings of yours soon of this Hyuania dino of the day. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful dinosaur. So I think it's fantastic that it gets the attention that it deserves, because it's not a Tyrannosaurus or like a Velociraptor, right? But it is actually, like in terms of reproductive biology, the most well-studied dinosaur that we have for now. So, you know, it is kind of like the model dinosaur when we talk about like reproduction and eggshells and like, you know, like parental behaviors and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so is there any evidence that oviraptors preyed on eggs? Like originally they were coined egg thieves, right? This is what oviraptor means in Latin. And it is so, I'm so sorry for oviraptors, you know, retrospectively, simply because what we figured out with our work on egg color is that they were actually like wonderful parents. They had probably biparental care systems, so mother and father were guarding the nest. They were not brooding the eggs, but they were guarding the nest all the time. They were probably raising the chicks. There's evidence that eventually like most of the parental care fell on the fathers, so that's then called paternal care, which is like kind of like a behavior that corresponds with these like bright blue eggs. So we see this also in emus and in cassowaries, so all these like birds that lay like bright blue eggs, and there's something about it. It's called like sexual signaling hypothesis. So it basically means that, you know, the bluer the egg, the more motivated the fathers are to really protect these eggs and like raise these chicks. So they invest a lot of energy in that.
Yeah, never heard that. Cool.
That's fascinating.
But yeah, so that there's no evidence that oviraptors ate eggs. Actually, they were wonderful parents, most probably.
Identity. Christina, what else? What else we got?
Shreya wants to know, are fossilized eggs found with any dino embryos?
Oh yeah, they are, and it's always super spectacular when that happens, especially when you find dinosaur eggs like that in the field. So we have like lots of dinosaur eggs that like fossilized at the stage where the embryos were already like big enough. They were like close to hatching, which is basically the time when they start to like really ossify their skeleton. So like in the beginning, you know, like when like let's just imagine that we fossilize dinosaur nests and eggs. When we fossilize them, like when they were just laid, the embryos would be just this like teeny tiny spot, right? Like right next to the yolk in there. There is nothing ossified yet. There is nothing like skeletal in there. And hard tissues preserve much better and much easier than soft tissues. And so it happens occasionally that we're lucky enough to have eggs and nests preserved like right at the stage when they were about to hatch. So all the skeleton is basically there, and so this preserves, and we can actually, you know, figure out like what kind of dinosaur laid these eggs, because based on the embryo remains, we can get at least a clue, you know, kind of like what sort of like family genus was involved in laying these kinds of eggs.
Cool.
Rob wants to know, how big would a Baryonyx egg be, or what color?
Oh.
Baryonyx? Is that what he asked about?
That is a hard question. So we don't have any. I assume from the question that you know that already. But so like for everyone, we don't have any. We don't have any eggs for any like Spinosaurus. And so thinking of Baryonyx, if we go with like, you know, like the closest relatives, we have Allosauriid eggs from Portugal. And like they are spherical in shape, and they are like pretty big, kind of like this size, you know, sort of like not giant, not like sauropod egg, like giant sauropod eggs, but like still pretty big, spherical in shape. They have a rather thin eggshell, and if we look at like, you know, what is like more derived, I guess like the next thing, if Baryonyx would be here, Allosaurus would be here, the next thing would be probably Therizinosaurus or something like that. They also laid spherical eggs. So if we just assume that, you know, like there's kind of like a thing in terms of like egg shape evolution going on, I would guess that Baryonyx eggs would have been spherical in shape, would have been kind of like medium sized in like dimensions. And in terms of color, it is really complicated, because in our study we worked basically with every sort of egg material that we had, and based on that we made the point that egg color likely evolved in Eomonoraptorans. But this is really based on the limitations of our sample set, because we didn't have any more primitive carnivorous dinosaur eggshells. So honestly, I think Baryonyx eggs, they could have been colored. Who knows? We need Baryonyx eggs to figure this out.
I have a question from Insta. I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear you, Jasmine. Do we have any evidence, or is anyone ever thought that any dinosaur, even the earliest, gave birth, or the latest for that matter, gave birth to live young?
So this is a really exciting question, and we're currently working on a research project that is sort of going into that direction. So maybe as a little Easter egg, we're starting to think that because we have, like, for so many dinosaurs, we don't have any eggshells in the fossil record. We started to think that, you know, maybe this is not just like a taphonomic thing or some sort of like bias in the fossil record, but maybe there is really something different about the way they reproduced. And currently we're not thinking that there were dinosaurs, we don't have any evidence for dinosaurs that gave live birth, but it could be very possible that the ancestral dinosaur egg looked very different from the kinds of dinosaur eggs that we find, especially in terms of calcification.
Now, I'm not saying they did, but if you had to speculate with a wild guess, what group of dinos would you think are most likely to give live birth rather than eggs? I'm not saying you think they did, but like if you had to choose.
If I had to choose, well, I mean, if we do this like scientifically and we look at like what kinds of animals evolve live birth, sort of like, or like what is called ovovivipary, which is basically you like retain, you produce eggs, but you retain them in the body, and eventually you have like the young hatching in the body. So it looks macroscopically like live birth. It's not exactly the same, but so we find this often in aquatic taxa, in marine taxa, in fully aquatic taxa. And if it had to be a dinosaur, I mean, I personally don't think that any dinosaur was viviparous, but if we find any weird reproductive behaviors associated with it, I would probably like go for aquatic dinosaurs. So we're back to Baryonyx and Spinosauroids, and yeah.
Okay. And Jada, our shark expert, says a lot of sharks do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Michael has a question related to his previous question. Michael, I'm trying to find you so that I can unmute you. If somebody can do that.
Michael,
for me.
away.
There you go.
So I just wanted to go build on my last question, which was, I understand that now we understand that that Oviraptor fossil at the American Museum is now more so apparent than an egg stealer. I'm just wondering, outside of that evidence, is there any other evidence that we have that we would speculate that Oviraptors did in fact eat other eggs anyway, the eggs of Protoceratops? Because you would think that smaller theropods would have eggs as part of their diet. The other day we were talking about fighting dinosaurs. For all we know, that Velociraptor could have been trying to prey on the Protoceratops eggs rather than the Protoceratops itself. So I'm wondering if, speculation-wise, like it's got a toothless beak, so it would be perfect for eating eggs. Do we have any other evidence outside of what we initially thought was the evidence of an egg stealer that Oviraptor could be an egg stealer?
Good question.
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So I have to say, not to my knowledge, but I mean, it's like, I'm really not an expert for dinosaur diets. So yeah, I don't think we have any, I don't know, actual remains found like in like the stomach area, like in the intestine, what would have been the intestinal area for like Oviraptors or Protoceratops. But like from a purely speculative point of view, I totally agree with you. I mean, like eggs are a wonderful source of protein. So, you know, why not? Like, I mean, especially if you're a carnivorous dinosaur, eggs don't run, eggs don't fight. So it's a pretty good food source, you know, just saying. Yeah.
Cool. Christine, I think we can probably do 2 more questions before we start looking at some of these drawings.
Awesome. Let me find it. So were dinosaur eggs thicker than, for example, chicken eggs or modern bird eggs from our egg?
Yeah. So that is like, that really depends on the kind of dinosaur. We have some really, really small troodontid dinosaurs. So they are like also like kind of like raptor dinosaurs. But like some of them got really, really tiny, really, really small. And so we have eggs for them, and like some of them are like, you know, this small. So they would be smaller than a chicken egg. And it would also be like colored like a chicken egg, just like much smaller and slightly different in shape, you know, less like polar. So kind of like very much like an ellipsoid. And then most dinosaur eggs would have been probably larger than a chicken egg. I mean, for those that we have, like I guess the largest dinosaur eggs were probably like sauropod eggs. and Hadrosaur eggs could also get really giant. There are like some, I guess, amazing egg discoveries coming up in the future with even larger dinosaur eggs. So like, you know, like, I mean, some of them would get really, really big, like kind of like soccer ball size. Yeah. For like the stars.
So my follow-up question with this is, would dinosaurs sit on their eggs the way that birds do? And would they need to have a thicker shell so that they wouldn't get crushed?
So this is like the one point of discussion that we have in dinosaur reproductive biology, like for years. Like where did, like we call it body heat incubation. Where did body heat incubation start? Where basically like, you know, like the parents like have like a brood patch that is particularly like well vascularized. So it's really warm. And with that, they basically like sit on the eggs and incubate them. Yeah, so like a huge discussion for like a while. We were convinced based on this like fossil with like the oviraptors sitting on the nest that we've seen earlier. People were convinced that oviraptors were like the first brooding dinosaurs, and that birds basically inherited brooding as a behavior from their dinosaur ancestors, tracing back to oviraptors. But we've recently figured out that most of these oviraptors that sit on the eggs, they are egg laying and they're not brooding. And so brooding like as a real behavior, like, you know, really sitting on the eggs, incubating them, is something that we like now think evolved in troodontid dinosaurs, so like a little bit more derived towards birds, still raptor dinosaurs. And any other dinosaur, we know that, for example, like you're thinking probably of like sauropod dinosaurs, like these like long-necked giant things. Like they couldn't sit on the eggs, and they buried the eggs underground. And because they buried the eggs underground, we're pretty sure that there was no sort of like body heat incubation going on, but they relied on environmental heat. Yeah.
Amazing.
I have learned so much today.
Yeah.
I'm also very excited to start looking through at some of your drawings. So you guys, can you please hold up your amazing renderings of Heyuania?
And as we go through these drawings, I want to bring your attention to our very own Lillian Hayward is running an Instagram account now to display your amazing drawings. So if you're on Instagram, follow @TheDailyDino, and you can submit a picture of your drawing, and they will put it up for all to enjoy.
I love that. Can you put that in the chat box so people can see that? All right, let's just these Heyuanias. Heyuania, what's it like in New York City? Anyway, Bluey, that's a good name. I like this one. Is that an Oreo? What are you holding? Oh, that's an egg, duh, obviously. Okay. Thank you, Natty. Margot won the game today, also may have won the drawing and the digital. I love that. We got the slight lavender color on Margot's here. Let's see what else. Megan, we had to extend the paper because it didn't fit in that direction. I like that. I like the different colors on the beak. Speculative, but hey, we're not really sure. Agus, yeah, yes. Every day on a Post-it note, come and correct. That looks great. Let's see, we have we have a whole flock over here of different oviraptorids. I see some blues, some oranges, some browns, like the eggs too. Beautiful, beautiful drawings. Let's keep going. What else we got here? Denise, this is clearly a very loving couple taking care of their newly hatched baby Heyuania. Into it. Bella and Emmett. Ooh, that looks good, Emmett. I like the long legs. That guy looks like he can run pretty fast. Richard, per usual, come and correct. Heyuania, are you okay? Are you okay, Heyuania? I like the colored feathers on the legs, the back of the tail. Oh, a cat for scale. Interesting. No one's used a cat for scale before. I like that a lot. Just, you know, you guys, cats were not around at the same time, but that's okay. Lauren, what do we have here? Oh, that's beautiful. That looks really good. I like the black and white. I'm into it. That is way better than I could have drawn. I like the feathers on both the wings and the tail in the back. That looks great. I like that you're pointing at who made it, the real artist in the room. Into it. All right, Jenna, there's a lot going on here. We got a lot of information all around our Heyuania here. I like that you've taken notes as well. Bryn. Ooh, Bryn, this one, the teeth may be a little speculative as far as like we think they had a beak, but that looks pretty good. Oh, it's not the dino of the day, but eggs. Okay, good caveat there. Lenosaurus Rex. Yo, that's beautiful. That's very beautiful. It's standing. Oh, I see the brood or the clutch of eggs kind of raised a little bit. I like that. I like the sun up in the sky. Let's see what else we got. Inez. Ooh, again, we've run out of paper space, a lot of us today, but this is beautifully detailed. I like the spots and the different colored pattern on the back. That looks great. Just quick shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom. How you doing? Happy Easter. Oh, quick sidebar. Mom, do you remember when, I don't know, I must have been like 12 and Sasha, or my little sister, must have been like 9, and every year there's an Easter egg hunt in the park in the middle of our neighborhood, and you try to find, there's like a prize for finding the golden egg and finding the silver egg. And one year both Sasha and I found each of those, and then as the resident Jews in the neighborhood, we were retired from competition forever. Anyway, we're gonna keep moving on. What other drawings do we have? Ooh, Yvette, did you just make that? Did you just print an entire book? I like that it's eating a crab. That's cute. Rob, what's up? We haven't heard from you today. Just saying hi to Rob. Let's see, Yasmin, we got a couple. Annie, the Heyuania. Those colors are beautiful. I like those. Lillian. Ooh, Lillian, I like the black. Oh, I like the grid. Really helps you make the size work out. What's its name? Can you hold it up? What's it saying? Oh, it's saying, hey, you. Okay, nice, nice. Jada, coming correct per usual. Happy Easter from Heather Ann, the Heyuania. Yeah, I mean,
shout out to, when you're done.
I was just gonna say, they may have laid their eggs in wicker baskets. We're just not sure. More research is probably necessary. Go ahead, Christina.
Natty has a 3D printed dino egg.
Natty does?
She wanted to show off.
Oh.
Yeah, check that out.
Can you give it a little twirl, Natty, spin it around so we can kind of see? Interesting. I like that. We are being able to 3D print so much stuff now. You guys, these are beautiful drawings. Please share those not only on the Insta Christina mentioned, tag me on Instagram at Dinosaur Whisperer, Twitter, Dustin Growick. That's also a good reminder. You guys, all of these Dino Session 101s go up on my YouTube channel that evening. So if you want to watch ones you haven't seen or see yourself in this one, YouTube.com/The Dinosaur Show. I will put links to Jasmina and her work in there as well, so you can find her. Quick recap. Today we talked all about dinosaur eggs. We know birds are dinosaurs. So we know a lot about the eggs that dinosaurs lay today. We're starting to find more and more about the dinosaur eggs that were laid more than 65 million years ago. We recognize now that big animal doesn't necessarily mean a big egg. There's not an exact correlation between body size and egg size. We now are pretty sure, generally speaking, that elongated, more oblong colored eggs are generally coming from theropods. And they are generally using those different colors in those eggs for camouflage because their eggs were laid in clutches above ground, versus the more round and more beige eggs that we see coming from sauropods, the long necks, other hadrosaurs, like Iguanodon, for instance. Hadrosaurus are more round, more beige, probably because they were buried underground. You don't need that camo. Tomorrow, is there anything I've forgotten, Christina, before I get into what we're talking about tomorrow? Christina, have I lost you? Christina, hello?
No, you're good to go.
Is there anything you want to add? Anything I've forgotten? Anything you'd like to add before we announce?
Yeah, I have one last dino thought. Dustin, I don't think you know the answer to this, but why did the dinosaur cross the road?
I don't know, Christina. Why did the dinosaur cross the road?
Because a chicken hadn't evolved yet.
That is an exceptional joke. It was just, all right. Yeah, it was great. It was excellent. So before we go bye-bye, I want to say again, a big thank you to our expert, Jasmina, for joining us today, teaching us all about dinosaur eggs. I have learned more about Heyuania than I ever had before. And you're absolutely right that it is totally underrated and unknown with respect to dinosaurs, because we've learned so much about dinosaur reproduction from that one single dinosaur. So thank you, Jasmina, for joining us. How do people find you, find your research?
Oh yeah, so if you're curious about dinosaur eggs, generally speaking, you can follow me on Twitter. It's Eastern, so we also always share our dinosaur egg color guide if you want to color your Easter eggs accordingly. Nice. And otherwise, I'm on Facebook and all sorts of media. We work a lot with National Geographic. So if you want to find my research, type my name or type dinosaur egg color and you're gonna find it. I'm
gonna write your name in the chat just so everyone sees it.
Jasmina, what's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, my name, Jasmina Weimann.
That's J-A-S.
Oh yeah, it's a German name. It has a weird spelling.
It's Jasmina.
Yes.
Wiemmann, correct?
Wiemmann.
Wiemmann.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I typed in the chat box. Awesome. You guys, this has been a ton of fun. I'm going to go search for some Easter eggs myself. But I don't care if you're digging. Oh, I forgot to mention tomorrow, friends, it's Monday. And you know what we haven't done? We haven't really talked specifically about museums. And Christina, if there's one thing we love, it's alliteration. So tomorrow, Museum Monday. We're going to talk about some of our favorite dinos
Museum Monday
in some of our favorite museums. Museum Monday, that is tomorrow. I don't care if you're digging deep, deep, deep down in that clutch of eggs to find the perfect Easter egg, or simply trying to figure out what color they are. Never stop digging. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Museum Monday. Thank you, Jasmina, for joining us. Let's go
Thanks
find
for
some
having
Easter
me.
eggs. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.